Can you change too much water doing a water change? Welcome back to the channel, fishy folks. If you're new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. Today we're going to be talking about water changes, how to do a water change, and the age-old question, can you do too much water changing? And so, as many of you know, I get a lot of my content ideas from social media. And lately I've been hanging out in a group looking for subject matter called Freshwater Aquarium for Beginners. It's got 80,000 members. And there's this one guy named Tanner who seems to argue with me no matter what I say. Now, granted, that is a beginner aquarium group, and so you have to sort of give advice based on that fact that they're beginners. However, many of the things that I recommend and do in my own fish room go against that sort of beginner mentality. As an example, a fish and cycle. I don't know why anyone would do a fishless cycle nowadays. It's so easy to do a fish and cycle using Prime or Fritz Complete, which is, you know, what I would rather use is Fritz Complete. But, you know, he argued with me about that. So somebody posted a question about changing water, and the question is it possible to make too many water changes? I have a 5-gallon, a 20-gallon, a 29-gallon. I do a 25% water change for the 5, Sunday, 20 on Monday, and 29 on Tuesday. I start over on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. No water changes. Tanks are not overstocked. I have hang-on back filters. I don't know what the OP was saying about all their tanks and their schedule. But the question is it possible to make too many water changes? And the simple answer is no, it's really not. There are plenty of fish keepers, usually the crazy discus breeders, that do 100% water changes daily. I'm talking, they drop the water to like this much because that's what they want to do for their fish. Now, this one person, his name is Tanner Head. I believe it's a fake account on Facebook because there's really no information in his account, but he tends to argue with me over everything. And that's fine. If you disagree with me, that's fine. But everything I say, he has to argue with. And so he said, not really, but it is possible to do too much water at once, which can have negative effects. And I said, explain. And so he went on to say that if you change too much water, you could change the water parameters drastically, and that'll kill all your fish. And sure, if you take water that has a pH of 6 and a temperature of, say, I don't know, 72 degrees, and you put water that's 84 degrees in with a pH of 8, yes, that will probably have adverse effects on your fish. But most people, especially beginners, take water from their tap and put it in their tank and then use water conditioner. So the water in their tank is typically very close in pH and all the other parameters to the water in their tap. I'm fine. And so basically I explained that no, that's wrong. The only way that happens is if you're manipulating your pH and you don't manipulate your pH with the water you put in. Now, yes, if the water out of your tap is completely different than the water in your tanks, that's a problem. You should rectify that. But basically, you cannot change too much water as long as the parameters match. And I'm not talking the temperature in the tank is 73 and you put water in that's 74 that you're going to kill your fish. No. It's got to be close, but that's it. That's it. All right. That's my spiel about can you change too much water. Let's talk about how to change water in a fish tank. First of all, one of my biggest things in this hobby is don't overthink it. All you're doing is taking water out of a tank and putting water in a tank. So let me show you, if I had to do manual water changes, how I would do it. Stand by. Alright, fishy folks, we're here over at the Blue Moscow tank. Now, if you watched my last unboxing video, most of the females that I got in that wholesale order for the Blue Moscows were DOA. So I separated the males and the females so that the females didn't get their butts kicked by the horny males. So this is a tank of about, I don't know, 15 or 18 blue Moscow males. It's got a Aquarium Co Op sponge filter in it. A little bit of Java moss stuck to the sponge filter, nothing special. It's simply a holding tank while I make sure the fish are acclimatized to the US water. And then when an order comes in through my website, michaelsfishroom.com, I'll pick them out of here. But in my fish room, I have an automatic water change system. So I don't change water in these tanks hardly ever unless there's a problem. I do have a few tanks upstairs that I do change water, and this is pretty much how I do it. The actual tools that I'm using don't really matter. It's the method that I want to talk about. So you might have a Python auto water change system. You might just use a tube and suction like I do. You might have a different kind of gravel vac. These tanks are bare bottom, so there is no gravel vac. But essentially, again, we're going to talk about the process. So first thing you want to do is empty out a certain amount of water. Now, how much water should you change? That's a darn good question. The other question is, how often do you change water? I see many people on social media say, I change 25% of my fish tank's water every week, and that's what works for me. And that's fine. If it works for you, it's right for you. You're probably changing too much water, but, and when I say too much, I mean, you don't have to work so hard. It's that simple. I'm lazy. I'm a lazy fish keeper. So how much water should you change, and when should you change water? So typically, we like to change water based on the level of nitrates. Quick lesson in the nitrogen cycle: fish create waste, pee and poop. That waste turns into ammonia. Ammonia is deadly to fish, even in small amounts. There's beneficial bacteria in the filter media, on the surfaces, a tiny bit in the water, that converts that ammonia into nitrite. Nitrite is also deadly to fish, even in low doses. There's a second beneficial bacteria that converts that nitrite into nitrate. Nitrate is not so deadly. In high doses it is, but in low doses, say under 40 parts per million, it's really harmless. It's also really good for plants. So if you have a planted tank, your nitrates are being used up by your plants in most cases. What causes high nitrates? Lack of water changes, because there is no way to remove nitrates for most people without changing water. How do you get high nitrates without changing water? Well, if you feed too much, that waste is going to turn to nitrates. If there's nitrates in your source water, when you change water, you're adding them back into the tank. So it's a good thing to check your source water. So when do we change water, right? So let's just say you've picked a predetermined nitrate amount of 40 parts per million. When your tank gets to 40 parts per million, you should change however much water you want. But if we do some simple math, if there's no nitrates in your source water, you have 40 parts per million in your 20-gallon tank, you take out 10 gallons and put 10 gallons of fresh water in, your nitrates are now 20 parts per million. So what you need to do is, say every week, test your water. I don't care if it's the master test kit or test strips. I personally prefer the Aquarium Co Op test strips. But test your nitrate. If the first week you check your nitrate is, say, 20 parts per million, you're good. The next week you come back, it's 30 parts per million. All right, now you got to start considering changing water. You come back a week later and it's 40 parts per million. Well, now you know that you need to change, say, 50% of your water every 2 weeks to maintain that under 40 parts per million level that you're looking for. It's really not that difficult. I didn't even take my shoes off to do the math. Of course, I'm wearing slides so I can see my toes, but that's besides the point. Let's get into the mechanics of how to change water. Whatever you're using, it's fine. You don't have to use a tube like this. Like I said, you could use the Python water change system or whatever you want. Here's as easy as it is. You remove X amount of water. If you have gravel in your tank, you're going to want a gravel vac. You're going to want to push the tube of whatever you're using into the gravel and suck up any food or waste that's stuck in there. So let me just start to siphon and drain out 50% of the water. I'm going to go around and clean up any detritus on the bottom. Now, all my tanks are pretty natural, meaning I don't care if there's mold in them. They're not show tanks. The mold is good for the fish. I don't have high nitrates because I do have an auto water change system that changes about 10 to 15% water in every tank every day. Ooh, looks like I sucked up a fish, so we got to be careful with that. I just empty out my siphon. All right, 5-gallon bucket filled up. 5 gallons removed, about 25%. I'm gonna do it again. Stand by. Okay, we got about 50% of the water out of the tank. How do we fill it? Don't overthink it. It's very simple. Feel the water temperature. Set your faucet or whatever source water you're using to about the same temperature. You can use a thermometer if you want, whether it's a non-contact temperature probe, a laser pointer, whatever. Just get it close. Think about fish in the wild when it rains. It could be 90 degrees outside and cold rain and the water temperature drops 5 degrees. They don't die. They're fine. They're much more hardy than we give them credit for, especially healthy fish. So, in this case, if you had your Python auto water change system, you'd walk over, switch the valve, and start filling it up. Okay, when do you add your water conditioner? Well, first of all, let's talk about water conditioners. I like using Fritz Complete, similar to Seachem Prime. Those are the only two I would ever use in a liquid form. I would also use the dry powdered form of either one in my fish tanks. Now you might be saying, so Mike, why do you have Fritz Complete in your fish room if you have an auto water change system? Well, that's a great question. Sometimes if I have a problem, I need to detoxify ammonia and nitrite quickly. That's what this is for. In my fish in cycle video, this is what I use, and this is what keeps the fish safe. In your case, you're going to have chloramine or chlorine in your water. And if you're using a well and you have a spring at your house or something, there's still heavy metals and other chemicals that could be in that water that you're going to want to treat. That's why I always recommend a water conditioner. Now, when I add water conditioner, I add it for the entire volume of the tank into the tank directly before I start adding the water. So I'm just going to pretend, got to shake it up. Yup, stinky. You pour the proper amount in, you drop it in. You could swish it around if you want, I don't. Now what you're going to do is you're going to turn your Python or fill your bucket and pour the water in. That's it. In fact, let me show you. I'm going to take my hose from my auto water change system, which by the way is temperature regulated to about 75 degrees. So that's about what temperature is here in my fish room. Sometimes it's a little warmer, sometimes it's a little colder. That's it. That's all you do to change water. Now, a couple things. While you're changing your water, you're going to want to feel the water coming out of your hose or your tap just to make sure it's good. Again, don't overthink it. It's not that big a deal if it's a few degrees warmer or colder. You're going to also want to watch your fish. Let's say you believe you put your water conditioner in, but you didn't. If you are filling your tank and you have high chlorine in your source water, they will immediately start to act different. I would say within minutes, if not sooner, they're going to start to act lethargic. Their gills might get red. They might start lying on the floor or up at the top, gasping for air. Add your conditioner. You can't really overdose Seachem Prime or Fritz Complete. I mean, if you drop the whole bottle in there, I would do a water change, but I know you can safely dose 5 times the amount without any problem. In fact, that's one of the tricks to doing a fish in cycle. So we're gonna fill the tank, we're gonna observe the fish, and we're gonna put our stuff away. Our hose, our bucket, our water conditioner, whatever it is, we're gonna put it away. I'm gonna put the clip back over here. I'm gonna hang my hose up, nice and neat, and that's it. We're done. We'll look at the fish. Oh, how sexy. Just like me. And that's it. Folks, if you have any questions about how to do a water change, can you change too much water, please just leave them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them for you. Guys, also check out that Facebook group I mentioned, Freshwater Aquarium for Beginners. Especially if you're a beginner, just know if somebody gives you an answer, you probably should research it, especially if it sounds kind of cray-cray to you, because it probably is. So, also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check out my website, michaelsfishroom.com. Have a great day, everyone. I said I was gonna... No. I'm just gonna do it. Which, by the way, is template. Welcome back to the channel, fishy folks. If you're new here or aren't a subscriber, please fuck. Alright, fishy folks, we're here. Yeah. Fish room with about 60 tanks where I breed guppies and plecos, and I sell a bunch of fish on my website, michaelsfishroom.com. And I'm kind of no nonsense. I'm not for everyone. I don't talk PC. I don't care if what I say bothers you. I don't know why the light's doing this. We're gonna have to start filming again. Ah! Can you change too much water in a fish tank? Welcome back to the channel, fishy folks. I am your host, Michael from Michael's Fish Room. And if you're new to the channel, I run a small fish room, about 60 tanks out of my basement fish room. I breed and sell plecos that... No. Not even close. Welcome back to the channel. Why is the light all jacked up? What the is going on? I'm fine. Can you change too much water doing a water change? I'm not even in the camera, like, because it's... What the hell? God damn. Causes your fish to die. Not too much water change, right? Not too much... Not... Take 97.